Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
In this real side experience, I would find myself traversing a series of streets, the architecture giving indication that where I was positioned would be the earth. It seemed I had an objective, a decided destination, though at this stage of the journey, so the personal self would be oblivious of it. On the real side, where intent overall is set with the ears, so it is the reality of our real awareness, that which is part of the isness everything, that orchestrates proceedings to an ever greater extent. For the essence of the isness is continued self-recognition made possible by the formulation of a parts of itself, that which doesn't recognize the ears, real awareness units, or U-tunes, which as they go through the creational process, as the comparison that creation provides is the means by which the everything reality can be recognized in relation to that which it is not, so this is a recognition that each real awareness attains becomes a greater recognition the ears has of itself. For this to be so, each real awareness must decide this recognition. This DUANE has referenced as the real intent, and as the creation, the secondary personal self is also brought on board, now utilized for the purpose it was intended, the afforded view and position of that which isn't the everything isness reality, as intent shapes our experience, for we are our intent, so everything we experience formulates as that which facilitates this is recognition. The reflective principle holds sway, where that which we do is that which we are. And to stand in recognition of the true reality, so we must set the intent accordingly, carry out the actions necessary, that we are mirrored as this real intent and action, we are what we do and intend. The real side will reveal our intent, we meet our reflection, and if intent is indeed set with the ears, our real side activities will be in accordance with that which is a beneficial awareness speaking. which generates a process where we earn our way, and where increasingly will the real awareness orchestrate real-side proceedings. It will take the reins of the experiences and be animating directly all our simulation-inserted forms accordingly. The personal self really then is akin to a passenger in a car, needing to but sit back and observe what is taking place without interjection. As such, the personal self may not always determine or be apprised of what is taking place, and sometimes only on waking are the scenes considered and realized as to their meaning. Oftentimes during the experience, it is as though we are following a real awareness-dictated script, as though a character in a movie, though one that is absent of the script, but seems to know his lines and the actions he must carry out regardless. And so it was, that of my traversing streets with a seeming destination, not a case of walking as such, but as though beaming from location to location by utilizing what appeared to be an app on my cell phone, a sure means of diminishing the distance required for travel, and more perhaps an exaggerated feature to allow for ease of recollection of the experience on waking. As I proceeded, it seems there would be one decidedly shady female character, though unknown as to her identity by the personal self, and where no illuminating impressions were extended to afford a clarification. Her singular objective seemed to be to disrupt my progress. In reality, all she could realistically do was to present distraction, that my attention be diverted on her and the overall idea she represented. As the deciders, we can't be derailed from anything unless we choose to be. If we say, are allured by alternative ideas that misalign our previously effected path, I rather would brush her off, not even bothering to engage with her, for it is so that the success of the distraction is really according to the attention we give it, and even as we engage with the disruptors, we now are locking into a set of alternative ideas that will generate their effects, and where our experiences can become something altogether different than we intended, although in reality all experience, regardless of its nature, even that which misdirects our attention and redirects our situations, are all viewpoints which can serve as comparative ears-recognizing tools. Just a case, then, of which viewpoint we wish to receive. As DUANE says, nothing is negated. It's a case of just seeing everything creational for what it is, simulated idea unrealities. However, I was steadfast in my determination for the view of the effects that had been set in motion, and would somewhat disregard the female disruptor and the alternative view she would have provided. For now, I would activate my cell phone with its teleporting capability, and would make the final transition to what proved to be my destination, which as it transpired was a vast complex, very technologically orientated, and awash with individuals. It seemed to be a dark force operation of a kind. The individuals present within would comprise of two distinct groups of humans. One set were the dark force affiliated overseers, the other would be a large group of humans, more along the enslaved and subjugated lines and doing the bidding of the humans who represented the dark force controllers. The overall operation was in regards to data, the processing of it by the subjugated humans present as they utilize the technology as made available under the scrutiny of the overseers. No impressions would reveal the exact specifics of this operation, what this data was and for what purposes, but it seemed the reason for my presence was to steal certain of the data being processed and collated. This would be achieved through infiltration, the real awareness orchestrating the actions of my simulated form, and as the real awareness is a part of the isness everything, and everything reality which permeates through all consciousness-affected simulated occurrence, so every idea is available to the real awareness, and nothing is beyond its know-how. The real awareness then can afford its simulated inserted body forms everything required for every eventuality, including the ability to blend in and infiltrate into any situation, and with the necessary skills and attributes to execute whatever objective has been decided on. Infiltration then was dependent on my being able to operate as one of the data processing slave humans, that I wouldn't arouse suspicion through any technological inadequacy, and as I did so, I would be uploading certain of the data to my cell phone, the particular data that seemingly was required to be pilfered, without drawing attention to myself and blowing my cover and clandestine assignment. This was proceeding without incident, and when completed I would simply teleport out, utilizing my cell phone, which also would have stored within it the data I had sequestered. It was all a matter of timing, for periodically would the dark force overseers unleash curious creatures into the overall complex. These creatures would mingle among the slave workers, and imperative was it that the slave workers cease what they were doing, their data processing, and become stationary. For any movement on their part would excite the creatures into attacking them. They seemed toxic in some way, that either through bite or some other delivery mechanism could they envenom and kill any human that did anything other than breathe while they were set loose. I'm uncertain what purpose this served, but perhaps it was simply a mechanism of fear-inducing, as this is the dark force currency, that of a constant fear perpetuation, as the best established means of maintaining control consciously and subconsciously. Far easier is it to secure and maintain acquiescence where fear of one's life is in the balance, and on countless real-side experiences have I seen various expressions and methodology of fear-inducing practices multi-dimensionally, that ensures to a greater extent agreement extended to the dark forces, and that their overall simulator dominion is retained. This would be one such example I would suggest, that another large group of humans were milked for their technological skills in regards to the data processing that was taking place, and where they would periodically be subjected to fear through the creatures that would kill them if they even moved a muscle, for the duration of time that they were allowed to be unleashed in the complex. That very likely all the slave humans were oblivious of their participation in this dark force, other dimensional operation, and just as oblivious of the creatures that were for the purposes of fear-inducing, and yet what was taking place would still be subconsciously installed and have its effect. The fear embedded and in relation to the controllers that would motivate then conscious behaviour and action, and diminish to a greater degree any desire for insurrection or rebellion on the physical level. I was aware of needing to complete my data stealing and vacate the complex within a certain duration, but during the experience I would have no impression afforded as to why, and for whatever reason I was somewhat delayed in my operation and would be caught in one of the moments where the overseers unleashed the creatures. The real awareness would, however, ensure my body form remain completely still, as all other human slaves also were, and I would be curled in fact in a fetal position, which on hindsight wasn't the best choice, as I denied myself a visual of the creatures now scampering throughout the complex and among the prone humans and myself. The creatures had a tendency to latch onto the humans, though afford them no harm, assuming the humans didn't move and where they would be envenomed and killed. For indeed one of the creatures attached itself to my back, and I could determine then its body type design to an extent. It was a kind of arachnid. It had a central body and multitudes of spindly, probing appendages, which could have been legs, or maybe tendrils, so perhaps even a kind of octopus. Impressions revealed this fear-inducing ordeal would not last long, for as you can imagine, difficult is it to remain completely prone for lengthy durations, and the controllers, although not overly concerned should a few of their worker slaves be killed, as this would serve as entertainment for them, but they didn't especially relish the prospect of losing their entire slave force. However, in this instance, the duration of time the creatures were present for was far longer than usual. It was as though the dark forces sensed the presence of an infiltrator, and that said infiltrator, perhaps, would not be as practised at remaining still as the other slaves who were accustomed to the procedure, and to ensure the likelihood of the infiltrator being killed, so the duration was extended. And this situation then went on for what seemed like hours, as I remained still amongst all the other humans, with the creature attached to my back. The impressions were that should this creature administer its venom to me, not only my experience-inserted body form would be unduly affected, but this would have adverse impact also to my physical level body form, as everything we experience on the real side and multi-dimensionally will filter through and have a bearing on the physical level body also. There have been a number of real side experiences I have shared where this has been so, where I have taken on a certain taint or malaise, which in essence is an agreement to an idea effecting as such, and necessary was it for this idea to be determined and released prior to waking, lest it be detrimentally physical level body impacting. Everything we experience is based on what we decide. The ideas must be present in a consciousness to have been agreed with, that they manifest in our experiential situations and impact the body forms as they will. Evidently then, the agreement ideas were consciousness placed, by whatever means and mechanisms they were secured, in relation to these creatures, that effected would be my debilitation, were I envenomed by them, and which would have a physical level body ramifications also. This seemed a real-side situation without end, as though the Dark Force controllers were adamant in weeding out the suspected infiltrator, that it was only a matter of time before I moved and the creature on my back deliver its venom. I had but to activate my cell phone to teleport from my predicament, but this now an impossibility given the circumstances. Any motion on my part, even a marginal, and the creature would strike. But for every circumstance, there are always alternative options. The cell phone teleporting capability wasn't the only mechanism of motion available to the real awareness, and I would instead slowly fade from the scene. I would now be occupying a position that bridged between the real side and the physical, what I term the in-between state. And although I wasn't then completely on the real side and inserted into the technological complex and unleashed creature situation, my bedroom now was the overall scene. Features of the real side still would be present, as is the case where our awareness straddles the two positions, physical level and real side, and the creature still would be attached to my back. Although, by positioning myself in this way between the real side and the physical, it was as though I became less substantial from the perspective of the creatures, as though still in the complex but no longer registering as a potential target. The creature still on my back would no longer be triggered with any motion on my part, and the simultaneous view was of my able then to activate my cell phone teleport in the complex without risk of being bitten or stung. And as I removed myself from the complex, so additionally would the creature fade from my back as I lay on my bed on the physical level. And with the creature no longer able to present as a threat to not only my real side form but my physical body, from this in-between state I would return now fully to the real side, and where I would be in an altogether different location. Present would be an individual that impressions revealed was a real guide, and I would be affording him a report on my successful operation, and surrendering to him the cell phone, where I had stored the data that was essential seemingly to have been secured. Although nothing would be revealed as to the nature of the data, and perhaps further details may become apparent at a later moment.